This is the CNC Geekcast, the podcast where two guys with speech impediments talk about movies. I'm Joseph Collins.
And I'm Paul Combs.
On today's episode, we'll be celebrating our 1-year anniversary podcasting. It's been an incredible journey, hasn't it, Paul?
No, it really has. This has been a ton of fun. And I don't see us slowing down anytime soon.
Well, that's true, but unfortunately, we have to bring some bad news. We'll be talking about what movie today?
We're talking about Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. Film we were both looking forward to because, as is obvious, we both love sci-fi, we both love space, we both love all these things, and Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets looked great from the trailers. It looked beautiful. And that beauty is there in the movie. It's just everything else that is lacking. And well, we're going to be talking about what went wrong.
Yeah, because this movie is a really bad movie. And we want to get out of the way. Look, there's a lot of cynicism on the internet, and a lot of people act as if somehow when a movie comes out and it's bad, they get really upset as if somehow it was a personal insult toward them. But we don't go out of our way to actually insult movies or to talk down about movies. We watch the movies and give our honest opinions. And honestly, this movie is not that good.
Yeah, but to just piggyback on what Joseph is saying, like, there's a lot of channels on the internet that just kind of exist to hate on films. I'm a big fan of Nostalgia Critic, but this is kind of what he does. I know Angry Joe does it. I know all these guys. But when Joseph and I started a year ago, we made the determination that that's not going to be us. We're not going to hate on the film. So I don't want y'all to think we're just hating on Valerian for the fun of it.
No.
We went in with hopes for this film. We wanted to love a film. We want to love every film. This movie just wasn't good.
It's like that meme on your Facebook page about DC and Marvel films. How's that go again? Like DC fans?
No, I got it. Give me a second. I'm just trying to think of how best to sum it up because it doesn't really...
It needs something translation.
I know I will go see every space movie in theaters, every superhero film in theaters, and I always have hopes. It's just some movies dash my hopes.
Yeah, and this movie definitely does it. So, what about this film is one of the things that make this film just not that good?
Well, before we get into all the nitty-gritty details about why we didn't like this film, I want to give a warning. If you're interested in seeing this film, just stop now because there will be spoilers.
It will be spoiled, but to be fair, this movie does spoil itself 30 minutes in.
It does. That's one of the issues with it.
And also, we have something new today in our episode. We'll be actually answering some questions, aren't we?
Yeah, at the end of the episode, after we discuss Valerian, we're going to be answering some audience questions, some listener questions, so stay tuned for that.
Yes, because it's a 1-year anniversary, like we already mentioned. I'm just going to hop on that because it's an exciting thing.
It is incredibly exciting, but there's no need to harp on it, Joseph. We're still going to continue.
That's true.
This isn't the end of us. There's no need to harp on that.
That's true. So what makes this film so bad?
The movie starts off well. It starts off beautifully. It shows the International Space Station in 1972. It shows the founding of its launch and the fact that Americans and Russians had teamed up to do this monumental achievement to human ingenuity. Mm-hmm. And I actually had hope for the film. I was like, this scene is really well done. It's set to David Bowie's Space Oddity, and it shows just the growth because it shows the International Space Station, and then it just keeps progressing, and it shows more countries coming. It shows Cameroon, it shows Ghana, it shows all these countries just coming and joining the space race, and then it goes on to aliens. It shows all these alien races, like, hey, and it keeps showing the growth of the International Space Station. And I had hope for the film because this is such a well-done scene. After the movie's out, you really need to watch it on YouTube, if for nothing else in this film.
Actually, it was not the International Space Station, it was Skylab.
Thank you, Joseph, but I will say this. The International Space Station was 1998. You're right about that, but we're not a history podcast.
No, but at least get your facts right.
Shut up.
Yes. But yeah, no, I do agree. That wasn't a good opening. Though I was kind of like wondering why they decided to use the 1972 footage, that old footage. Why did they just not film it? I mean, I don't understand. I mean,
I don't understand that either. But I mean, I think it was just cool because it did create that effect that you're watching history. Mm-hmm. And then the next scene was kind of cool too because you showed the planet that's the central focus of the film. Mm-hmm. You showed this alien race, and you showed this quite frankly, astoundingly beautiful planet.
Yeah, it reminded you of Avatar.
Yeah, it reminded you of Avatar, but basically think if Hawaii, with its white sand beaches and its beautiful ocean, was made a whole planet. Think of that.
Yeah, it's in like Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know, like that battle on Scarif.
Exactly. And so you open with this, and you see the planet get destroyed. So that happens. Those two scenes are both really good. I was enjoying the movie up until the next scene. In the next scene, what happens is we're introduced to our leads.
And then the movie just went down.
It nosedived. Like think of a airliner cruising along. It raises, then it's flying along, cruising altitude, then it just nosedives. Because that's kind of what happened to the movie.
Yes, because planes do nosedive.
Shut up.
No, I agree, because the minute these two characters start talking to one another and started doing the little whatever they were doing on the bed.
The movie had a whole romantic subplot throughout the film.
Yes, they had this entire idea of how they wanted these characters to interact. And then I'm like, okay, the minute they start talking, I'm like, okay, this dialogue is boring. Why are they doing what they're doing? And I'm like, oh, this plot line. And at that point, I'm like, oh, crap.
Well, first off, we're introduced to Valerian, played by the dude in the Amazing Spider-Man, that's the Green Goblin, who was frankly awful in those films too. He was just as awful in this. And he's supposed to be this lady killer. Supposed to be this charming dude. Supposed to be able to get any lady he wants. But frankly, he's the most awkward. I don't know. That was beyond the realm of believability right there.
He's no James Bond.
Exactly. That's a very nice way of putting it.
I mean, if he was James Bond, then at that point you're like, okay, done, sold. I mean, if this is like a James Bond film in space, like, okay, yeah, got done. I want to be like James Bond.
Yeah, exactly. Had he had the charm, but also just the chemistry between him and Cara Devil. I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
People with speech impediments, people.
And it's a French name. I have a hard enough time with English.
French.
But just the chemistry between them is, well, frankly, non-existent.
What chemistry?
Exactly. About the most you can say with their chemistry is, well, they were on screen together.
Yes, they were. And I really didn't like the girl's performances. She was just annoying. She was more of a... I mean, she tried to act tough and be a strong lead, but she just came up as more of just an annoying character.
She did. Though, truthfully, I do think it would have worked had there not been a romantic interest. Had they just been friends and had that antagonistic relationship without the stupid marriage subplot, I probably would have enjoyed that relationship a lot more. The relationship just felt forced.
It did feel forced. I didn't believe it. And it didn't look like... because of the way that she was acting toward him, it didn't feel like that she was serious toward him. It's like there was no reason to, and I know that she was angry at him, but I didn't see that, sparkle in her eye for him. And to be honest, because of the fact that he was not that good of a lead of a character or well-written character, I'm like, I don't see it. It's like Anakin and Padme. That's probably the worst forced romances I have seen on screen. This is one this is close up. It's up there. It's like, I don't believe it. I do agree that this movie, I think, would have been better if the lead character was marrying another girl and was in contact with another girl and they were more like friends. I think that would have been better. And then he's like, oh, I made her mad, and she's trying to help him, or something like that.
I don't know. I just get ignored. I mean, I understand this is a comic series, and I understand this probably happened in the comic series, but it is just the fact that romance, I acknowledge, is hard to write. It is. There's so many cliches to fall back on. It's hard to make a believable romance, but if you can't make it believable, don't have it.
Same time, it's hard as a writer to ask the question, is it believable?
Yeah.
It's difficult. I understand that. But that's not the only failing of this movie, though.
No, it's not. It's just we always talk about the fact that if you remove every element of a movie, we've talked about this every episode, the characters are the most important thing. Yes, ensemble cast will work, like in The Hobbit, where you don't have to focus and develop every character because it's an ensemble. This movie didn't do that. This movie had its two leads. And while the two leads just frankly needed to be better and needed to be developed better.
I don't think they would be cast that well either.
Yeah, I don't. But then the movie just gets right into another bad scene. There's the whole heist scene in the bazaar. Admittedly, the bazaar does look good. I really enjoyed everything that's going on with the aliens hawking their products. but I just didn't understand what was going on in the heist. I didn't understand what they were trying to accomplish. It may have been my failing, but I didn't understand that. What about you?
I felt the same way, to be honest, because at the beginning of the film, like you said, it was a great opening scene with the Space Odyssey song, and the city of 1,000 planets was pushed into space, and then suddenly you're just thrown into this, heist scene that's it's like 20 or 10 minutes, 12 minutes, that you have with these characters you instantly hate, and you're supposed to care about them. You don't care about them. And you're thrown into an action sequence that has no tension because you don't care about the people, and you haven't been given reason to care about anything. And so why should I care about the action or care about what's going on, because it wasn't that well set up?
Well, I understand what they were trying to do, because we talked about this on Baby Driver a bit. The fact that the opening chase sequence was supposed to convey competence, and that's what Valerian was doing. Like, hey, these are qualified space agents, I guess. Mm-hmm. This scene was supposed to show their competence, their ability to handle the situation. It's just the fact that I didn't completely understand what was happening at all.
Yeah, I think so. I think it just dragged on too long.
It did. That was another thing about this movie. This movie is, I think, over 2 hours long.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Interesting aside, Joseph actually left this film early.
I did, before the ending of the film, because I got to a point where, okay, look, this movie, like I said, this movie is 2 hours long, and the other problem with this movie is the best way to describe it is it didn't have direction. It got so caught up with its side. It's like, I guess they had all these side quests the characters to do, and it's like drew a straight line, and that line was was moving, and that plot represents, that line represents a plot, and then its movement represents the audience go along with it. You had all these other side plots, which is all these other lines branching out, going all these different directions, then coming back to the plot. And I didn't care about any of the side plots of that, and it was like 2 hours long. And I'm like, okay, look, I don't care. I'll get back to the plot. And when they got back to the plot, they revealed something they already spoiled in the beginning of the film. And I'm like, oh, this plot line, this old trope. I'm done. I'm walking away. I know how this movie ends. I'm out. And then I just walked out.
Interestingly enough, Joseph did talk to me after he walked out. He messaged me and was telling me everything. And I did stay until the end of the film. He did get the ending exactly right. He isn't wrong about that. He was able to put everything together without staying for the end of the movie.
Because in the beginning of the film, the guy's like, I want you to marry me. And the girl's like, no. I'm like, okay, you're going to get married at the end of the film.
Yeah.
They're going to get married. They're going to have this huge climax where you had the big fight between, the bad guys, those black robots, came back to make an appearance, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And they had this big fight, and then they won. I don't know how they won the day, but did the commander die?
No. He got captured.
He got captured. Okay, so I don't know about that. But anyway, and then they got married, and then how did it end exactly? Did they kiss, and then the camera panned out of the...
Actually, basically.
As the entire city?
Yeah, basically. I mean, not exactly, but you're basically there.
Okay. All right. Now, I've seen too many movies.
Yeah, I mean, you have, but also it was telegraphed so soon. Like, I like Clive Owen. He's a good actor. He played the commander in this film. But it's telegraphed so early, the fact that he's the bad guy. It's like, okay, you're the bad guy.
Yeah,
as soon as he appears on screen.
Yeah, and not only that, but the minute that you see that he captured one of the aliens, like, okay, what? Okay, he's about... Now I'm like, okay, there's a mystery. I'm like, I gotta stay for the mystery. And when the mystery was revealed, I'm like,
yeah,
head about to explode.
Why did they show that torture scene? It added nothing to the narrative at that point, and it only established that, hey, this is the bad guy. It served no actual purpose.
No.
If this movie was a person, I would want to choke it.
Or slap it. It's like, be more consistent. But what do you think of all the subplots? I mean...
Actually, I enjoyed a couple of the subplots. Like the whole thing with Rihanna. First off, I will say this. Rihanna was actually the best actor in the film.
Jesus, movie's really bad.
I mean, it is. I mean, that's exactly the point. Like, wow. Like, she had more charm than the two leads.
Wow.
Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she was the best actor. I thought that other actors did a bad job, but if you're talking about between the leads, yeah, no, she has definitely...
And she actually had charm when she was on screen. Like, you actually wanted to watch her. And then she does this fantastic burlesque number. I'm a huge burlesque fan, so she does this whole number, and it's actually kind of cool. It's just the only issue with it is the movie just forgets about its plot.
Yeah, I mean, all these... Because at one point... the main character, Valerian, whatever his name is.
Valerian.
I don't care. Anyway, but he flies his ship. They're chasing another ship into this thing called a void. Basically, the plot is the city of 1,000 planets has this void that is spreading in the center of the city. And this city is like the central location of all these aliens. You have all these alien races. It's a nice concept. I mean, they're working together.
Well, it looked really cool. Like, there's an exposition dump after the heist scene, and they really show all these aliens. They show all these beautiful aliens, and they show the fact that they have to have different environments for each of them. Mm-hmm. And then they show that each of them provide kind of a service. Some of them are over the banking side of things. Some of them are over the IT side of things. And it's beautiful. And then that's the only time it's relevant at all to the film.
Yeah, this thing is called The City of 1,000 Planets, and the plot doesn't even evolve around the city.
No.
I mean, it's not like it was in the city. It's not like that. Yeah, the city's a threat, but the trailer made it out to be like something's gonna happen to the city, like it's gonna break down or something.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's like, no, it would have been better. The plot was basically that this tribe of alien races got wronged. The general fought this war this battle in the orbit of this small planet that had no life, according to
According to the general, and
the general lied, yeah.
Obviously.
And in order to win, he launched a missile and destroyed this alien race, almost made it extinct. And we're supposed to care about that race. So we care about a race that's actually on the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, make it central. The plot central around a race on the city.
I mean, either that or just, I don't know. This movie just went wrong in a lot of ways. But truthfully, Joseph and I were talking about this. We actually think it would have worked as a television show.
It would have. I think so too, yeah.
Like all these little subplots, you could have had the overarching conspiracy over the season with a drop in little hints each episode, and then have an episode devoted to Rihanna and that whole subplot with her being... It was kind of dark because it was basically human trafficking.
No, it was human. I mean, it makes sense that there would be an element in the city where this human trafficking existed.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
It was dark, yes.
I mean, that actually was an interesting subplot.
Mm-hmm. And didn't she turn out to be some kind of queen of a...
I don't know. Like, I don't...
Yeah, that's the thing. Is that that's another thing about this movie. It made this appearance like, I'm a queen. It's like, what? Are you a queen, or are you just making that... Is that just something for show? I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that part. And there's this whole banquet subplot. Frankly, has some beautiful costume design.
It did, but at the same time,
it tied into nothing else.
No, and also the other thing I didn't like about this film was the comedy, or the lack thereof. The comedy just fell flat on every single front.
It did.
And the thing that really annoyed me was when the main character was trying to find Rihanna, was walking through, the movie felt the need for him to say a reaction line to everything going on. A person walks by, he's like, oh, no, thank you. Or another person walks by, has to say something. Silence is golden in some moments. Stop talking.
He's not a strong enough actor to act with facial expressions.
I understand that, but at the same time, it's like, he's an actor, he has to learn, and it's your job to be this.
Another thing that bothered me about this plot, I've actually talked about this with Joseph a minute ago before the episode, the fact that, okay, they go along, he gets separated from
the girl,
from the girl lead, and she goes to find him, then they have this subplot with Rihanna, they have this subplot with a banquet, and then he knows everything. Because when the planet was destroyed, one of the aliens died, and she sent her spirit into him somehow. But apparently it doesn't awaken until that point in the movie, which just feels like a giant plot convenience.
Basically, the movie is like, okay, we got to the point where we need the audience to know this, and so, audience, now you're going to know this stuff. And they basically have a character tell them, like what George Lucas does. George Lucas writes his characters by explaining to the audience who I am. It's like in Star Wars, we had the scene where Han Solo actually said, I'm not in it for you, I'm in it for the money. And we're like, we already know he's in it for the money. Why do you need to tell us this?
Wait, are you saying something bad about Star Wars?
No, but more like George Lucas' writing.
But in the realm of Star Wars?
In the realm of Star Wars, yes.
So in essence, you're saying something bad about Star Wars?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
No, George Lucas.
I was just asking a clarification question.
It's George Lucas, but no, I mean, it goes back to that thing. It's like it's just it's information dump. Okay, we need to let the audience know this, and they didn't know how else to do it. At the end of the day, if this film feels like it could have been cut down, immensely and only been like an hour and 30 instead of 2.
Yeah, it really does. And
all these scenes should have been deleted.
And I'm just disappointed in the film.
Yeah.
We talked about this a bit of the episode, but I love new sci-fi. I love sci-fi that's not Star Trek or Star Wars or something familiar.
Yeah.
I want something different. I want something fresh. The last time it happened was Jupiter Ascending, and well, that wasn't great either.
Oh yeah.
It still had the acclaimed directors. It still had the Wachowskis. It still had the build-up, and the same thing happened. Is it too much to ask for a good original space opera? Is that too much to ask for?
No, it's not.
But it shouldn't be. But apparently, it is.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy was great, but it's part of the MCU.
Mm.
I'm wanting something kind of separate in and of itself.
Yeah.
And it just seems too much to ask for to get that. The film did have one kind of redeeming thing, though.
Okay.
It was astoundingly beautiful.
Yeah, we talked about that.
No, we talked about the planet, but I want to get into that a little bit more.
Mm.
Like the film's use of color, the opening planet, the central alien race on the beach planet. Then the colors in the city, and then the colors of Rihanna's character because she's this bright blue alien. Everything pops, and it's beautiful. I didn't see the movie in 3D. I've seen a lot of people talking about the fact that this is a movie that should be seen in 3D. The fact that he intended it to be shown in 3D. And the only issue with that becomes the 3D glasses in the theater always have this tint on them. Mm. So yeah, it may have been something added in the depth, but wouldn't that have washed out the color aspect?
A bit, yeah.
Because that's always a disappointment. Anytime I watch a 3D film, the last time I watched a 3D film was Fate of the Furious.
Okay.
And it was terrible. It was fun, but it was terrible. But there was a few scenes where I was thinking, like, this is a little too dark. I would have hated to have seen that with this film. I feel bad for the people that saw this film in 3D.
Yeah, I actually was reading an article about this, and they were talking about how IMAX is going to be dropping a lot of 3D showings.
Man, it doesn't surprise me. 3D doesn't add much. It's just an extra $2 or $3. Actually, I don't know how much it is because I haven't seen a 3D film in a long time.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of times up to $20. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I think people are just tired of spending $20 on a movie.
I mean, truthfully, I mean, I'm willing to pay money for movies. I love movies. I hate 3D. I do. It's a gimmick. Mm-hmm. Few films use it well.
Well, it is a gimmick because for me, a 3D film would actually be something that comes out and hovers around you, and you feel like you're actually immersive in it. To me, all the 3D stuff is. I wanted the sensation. I don't think it's possible.
Not possible yet.
No, it's not possible. But that's what I mean by 3D. Or maybe when you have a 360 camera and you basically you're basically in the middle of the action. That is a 3D. For me, that would be a 3D movie. Is when you basically have the camera guys in the middle and you have everything is around you, and you have the virtual reality headset and you're just looking around watching the action. That would be a 3D film. Now the downside to that was, of course, the shots and the cinematography would suffer because of it. I get that, but at the same time, that would be true 3D.
But speaking of the money and speaking of the fact that IMAX customers aren't buying IMAXs more, no one's paid to see this movie either. This movie has bombed.
This movie makes the Death Star explosion look tame.
Yeah,
it's bombing of this. Yeah,
it does. It's made. In case you're curious, I actually looked up the stats before we watched this. This movie had a $177 million budget before marketing. Mm-hmm. This movie has made $30 million in the U.S.
Just the U.S.
It hasn't opened worldwide yet.
I mean, it may get a bit of pickup on worldwide because this is a French comic. So,
I mean, it may, but at the same time, that's not a good sign. Because word of mouth is what sells movies, just frankly.
Yeah.
And if people in France or people in any parts of Europe look at the U.S. box office, it's going to affect their ticket sales.
Yeah. Well, look at Wonder Woman. I mean, Wonder Woman was getting great reviews before it opened up, and because of it, it has this huge opening.
Yeah.
Well, some movies don't allow there to be reviews, and I wonder why.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder. It makes you question because it seems like DC and Marvel. If you're confident in your film, you'll let the reviews go at it, and they will say yes.
But not even just reviewers, just fans. Because if I loved this movie, I would have been telling everybody about it.
Yeah, like Kubo on the three.
Like Kubo on the Two Strings, which I encouraged all my friends to see. This movie has the opposite effect. I've encouraged my friends not to watch it.
No, stay away from this film. Don't give this film money, and I'm glad this film does. The films like this need to be put on. Now I'll say notice, but Just stop. I mean, please stop making bad box office films.
I want better. We deserve better.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of good movies out there. I'm not saying there's not any good, but there's more good movies out there than we give credit for. But what I'm talking about is like make better box office films, movies like better superhero films, as we're getting, or movies like better action movies, or better,
I just want better space movies.
That too, better space movies as well.
That's all I want. I love the action movies. I love everything else we're getting. I just want better space movies.
Okay, well, that sounds like we just completely devastated this movie.
No, we did.
We bombed on this movie like this movie's bombing at the box office.
Grown.
But before we go, let's get to some questions, shall we?
One of our first questions we're going to answer comes from Juice in the Morning. Great podcast. He's available on Twitter. Communicate with him all the time. But he just asked, what's the biggest challenge to our first year of podcasting?
For me, probably getting the editing right.
I mean, the sound and editing are always important. But for me, it's just been getting comfortable behind the mic. Because what we always strive for is the conversational aspect. Mm-hmm. We want to capture the feeling like, hey, you're hanging out with us and you just got out of the movie and we're talking about the movie. That's what we've always wanted to capture, is that conversational aspect. So it's just been hard because I've always been aware of the mic. I'm getting better about it now. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's always just been, it's kind of like stage fright, kind of.
Yeah.
It's the awkwardness. It's the realization that people are listening to me.
Yeah, 1,000 eyes watching you.
Exactly. That's kind of what it feels like. So it's not being so self-aware and so critical. It's getting natural. That's been my biggest challenge. Our next question comes from our friend Nerdette Designs. She's a fantastic graphic designer. She's available on Twitter at Nerdette Designs. She's a great friend and she's a great graphic designer. Check her out. But the question is, how do we stay motivated to keep continuing? It's hard to push out these episodes week after week for a year. So what do you think, Joseph?
I think, well, first things, we do have fun doing this. I mean, it's something that we enjoy doing. Sharing our thoughts on it, it's really just become motivation. Sometimes you don't feel like it, but you just gotta, push yourself through it.
I mean, it's just a matter of the fact that, yeah, we're gonna have bad weeks. Some weeks we're gonna feel less fun about it than others, but it's getting behind the mics that's the hard part. Mm-hmm. It's finding time to get behind the mic. But once we do, it's so much fun. That we have so much fun with these conversations.
Yeah.
We're going to keep it continuing for a while, I hope, just because this is so much fun for us. As we've said time and time again, these are conversations that Joseph and I have always had. The only difference is now we're recording them.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Our next and final question comes from our friend and fantastic cosplayer, Layla Antagonist. As I said already, she's a fantastic cosplayer. She makes these amazing costumes. Check her out on Facebook at Layla Antagonist. But her question is, well, it's a two-part question actually. What are our favorite movies, and what is a movie that Joseph and I really disagree on?
Ooh, well, I think my favorite movie is, I've always said it's Star Wars, but that's a kind of obvious thing, so I'll go put that on the side, and I'll give another answer and say probably Indiana Jones. I enjoy that, and Back to the Future. I mean, I have a lot of favorite films.
Yeah, it's really hard for us to say this is a favorite film, because I have favorite films within this genre, favorite films within this genre, favorite films within this genre. But I mean, just a list of some of my favorites is The Matrix, Mad Max Fury Road, Vertigo, just all these films, because I like to do more of a tier list. I hate to rank films like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, because when I think about it, it's like Star Wars is my favorite sci-fantasy. Then you have Back to the Future, which I don't know how to describe Back to the Future.
It's just more straight up science fiction, I would guess.
Yeah, it is most, but it's probably the best time travel movie of all time.
No, it is, and it did so many iconic things in regards to the time travel genre.
Actually, for the first, the directors that we talked about how when it comes to that film, it was an idea that you haven't really seen before. You never saw on film a kid going back in time and meeting his parents as young. That was an idea that you never really saw.
Yeah, that's really cool. But now we'll answer the other part of the question, Joseph.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's a film you and I really disagree on? I know what I'm going to say.
Okay.
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit. You think that film is terrible?
I don't think it's terrible. Mm-hmm. I just think it's not good.
I disagree. I think that it's good. I just don't think it's great.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not Lord of the Rings quality, but I think that when it comes to a bad film, it does not meet the criteria of a bad film.
And that's a film we disagree on. We may do an episode eventually, but it may turn into a screaming match with me punching Joseph and stabbing him. But.
Yeah, stab me. Yeah, I think that there's a lot more redeeming qualities in that film than those not.
But
I guess yeah.
But an episode we actually recorded on where we had a disagreement was the film Arrival.
Yes.
Like, I really enjoyed Arrival. I thought it should have won Best Picture last year. I frankly enjoyed it. And Joseph enjoyed it from a technical standpoint, but he did not think it was a good film.
Well, I didn't say it wasn't a good film. I thought it was a really good film, a well-done film. I just didn't enjoy it because I thought that it didn't add anything new. All those ideas I already experienced watching Star Trek. I mean, they already covered that. The idea of communication and or using language in different ways was an episode in Star Trek where there was an alien race that talked in metaphors. So the idea of talking with imagery, it's like, okay, yeah, it's a great idea, but this idea that language can be used more than just, like this, it was always a Star Trek episode.
Well, that's fine. I wasn't trying to misrepresent you. I just misremembered, but that is a film Joseph and I disagree on because, as I said, I think it's a masterpiece. And you can actually listen to the episode to hear us discuss that in more detail.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. I don't think it's a masterpiece, but I think it was good. Yeah. It's really good, really good. I wouldn't go that far with it. I mean, I don't know.
But let us know if this is a segment you would like to see us continue. Let us know if you have any more questions you would like us to answer. But for the time being...
I'm Joseph Collins.
And I'm Paul Combs.
And you've been listening to the CNC Geekcast for an entire year. Huzzah!
Huzzah!